Welcome to the August 5th, 2025 meeting of the Jericho Planning Commission. We're going to call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. I'm going to next slide. I'm going to review the agenda.
Oops. Before we get to the agenda, so this past weekend was the Dragon Heart event down on Lake Champlain. We were well represented from Jericho. Jessica and Peter were on a community team, and you can see them getting in their boat in a bigger picture. And then I didn't expect to see Eric, but there he was, like organizing everything and telling people where to go. So,
Be in a team next year.
Excellent.
Can you sign me up? I would love to.
Remind me about that roundabout March or April.
I will absolutely do you.
Sign you up on a team.
I would love that. Thank you.
great. So this was
Join us even sooner.
so this is just a brief community moment before we get into the agenda. So the Dragon Heart. Actually, Eric, you can explain it better than I can, I'm sure.
Well, I'll try. I don't have the spiel down. Dragon Heart Vermont is a charitable organization. It was created predominantly for breast cancer survivors. So it is a educational and support group for survivors and their families. The team has several divisions within it. There is a breast cancer survivor team, which is both competitive and recreational. Recreational as we play around on the lake and paddle around. The competitive one is the Dragonheart Sisters, and they have been in their league world champions in the International Dragon Boat Federation BCS class for probably 10 plus years. So they are some very, very fast, powerful people. There are a few men who have been on the team because breast cancer is not gender specific, but it is predominantly females in that team. We also have a number of single gender and mixed gender competitive teams that have been racing mostly in the US and around the world. The senior A, which is 40 plus, has been champions in the US, the Eastern Regional Dragon Boat and the National Dragon Boat Federation. The senior B, which is 50 plus, has also been US champions several times in a row, and I've been on that team 4 times to take US national championship for the senior B federation. And the senior C, which is 60 plus, is in real need of people because a lot of them have aged out. But since you're all under 50, you should definitely please come down.
Oh, under 50. That's very flattering. Not quite.
Well, there is actually a huge need for people in the 50 plus area. There's an annual fee that we pay as a membership. If you're a breast cancer survivor, it's free. In addition to the programs for the racing, there's a lot of other community programs around health, healthy living, support for breast cancer survivors and all cancer survivors in other areas. It's a great community. If you're really interested, and I hope you all are, come on down to the Coast Guard docks Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 5:30, and I will make sure you get on a boat. And then you can paddle and find out just how much fun it is to be on the lake at sunset.
Thank you, Eric.
So I saw Peter just joined. So Peter, this is just a brief community moment, talking a little bit about the team you and Jessica were on over the weekend, and they raised $4,000. So
Awesome.
yeah.
My face in every picture looks very not comfortable, which is pretty accurate about how I felt about the whole boat situation.
Oh,
All right.
a lot of fun.
That's okay. Okay, we need some good news. Okay, so the agenda is as follows. After the review, we will have opportunity for public comment and other business that is not on the agenda tonight. We will then approve the minutes of June 17th and July 15th. Then we will have an update on wastewater education. We will follow that with a discussion on our project to enable housing in Jericho, where Chris will go over his interviews with developers and other professionals. Then we will go into reports of the town planner and any committee liaisons, then other business. And then we will wrap up and plan for our next meeting, which is on August 19th, and then we will adjourn. Are there any changes that need to be made to the agenda? Yeah, okay. So then I will now open it up for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Looks like we have one or two people from the public. There's nobody in the room from the general public. So anyone on Zoom have comments they want to make? Okay, I don't see any hands or signals or, so I guess there are none. All right, so then that takes us to the minutes. We'll start with the minutes of June 17th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 17th?
Move to approve.
Eric moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chris seconded. All those in favor? Oh, are there any adjustments to those minutes that need to be made? Okay, no adjustments. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
I need to abstain.
Me too. Okay, so Nancy, that was Chris, Eric, and SJ saying yes, and then Heidi and I, Sabina, are abstaining. No, wait, I was there for that meeting. I'm gonna be a yes.
Because then we'll have 4 votes.
Right.
Yeah, all right, yes, I'm a yes for June 17th, and Heidi is a abstain. All right. All the, next one is July 15th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 15th?
I move to approve July 15th.
That's SJ,
I will second it, says Heidi.
Heidi seconds. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Oh, yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, SJ, Heidi, and Chris are yeses. I'm an abstain. Eric is an abstain.
So we'll have to bring those back at the next meeting.
Okay, so we will not approve the minutes of July 15th at this point because we don't have a quorum for voting. Okay. Now we will go to the next slide, which will be an update on our wastewater education project.
Great, thank you. I am going to turn it over to Finley, who is going to walk through an update on the work they've been doing since they were last at the Planning Commission.
Hi, I'm Finley. I feel like I've met most of you either virtually or in person, but I feel like it bears repeating that I'm Finley. I'm one of the interns. So just this summer, we've been working on this wastewater, kind of looking into wastewater and what it takes to get wastewater support in Jericho. As we all know, wastewater is really important for Jericho's future based on the town's long-term vision for compact walkable villages surrounded by working lands, forests, and natural resources. So that's kind of what our work has been rooted in. This is kind of the timeline of our work. You can see where you are. You are at the start that says you are here. Right now we're wrapping up making edits kind of in a feedback stage. So because we're in that feedback stage, it's really great that we're meeting here now. Your feedback is super important for this as well. So I really welcome any comments, questions. I think we're at a part where like clarity is really important, and so I really appreciate you guys. So at this point, we do have our outreach strategy recommendations, and we've narrowed it down into 5 categories. The first category is having the right information. So this means having an environmental report, a transparent financial report, so that includes projected costs, funding sources, long-term tax impacts, both for the town and for property owners, as well as user fees and other financial information. Additionally, for having the right information, an important part of that is community surveys, really understanding where the community is, and how they perceive this kind of work. This information is really important to kind of root all of the other categories, all of the other work that's necessary to make this kind of project happen, including updating community leaders, supporting outreach and project efforts. Basically, you can't make the rest of it work without this information. The next is strong select board leadership. This means basic stuff like having wastewater always on the select board agenda, but also kind of more high level stuff like having the select board publicly supporting the project and also being highly informed and coordinating with consultants and town staff. Towns with the most successful outreach had select boards that were staunch and unwavering in their public and kind of more private, like administrative support. The next category is efficient project management. The number one thing for this is having a dedicated point of contact. That dedicated point of contact kind of was slightly different in a lot of the towns, but I know in our discussions, Chris and Cam and I, we talked about how in Jericho, the best option for that might be like a staff member and working with CCRPC on that. Overall, though, this category is really just about clearly defining roles and expectations and keeping the project on track and on schedule. The next category is focused outreach. So this is all sorts of different types of outreach to reach as many different people as possible. This includes in all of those types of outreach, that means there's clear language, clear explanations, clear, overviews of individual costs, and then also highlighting how the project protects what people love about Jericho. In some of our conversations, especially with community leaders here, they've kind of described like certain like things about Jericho, like a Jericho-ness that everyone loves. And so really having outreach focus on, okay, we love that, and this is what wastewater is going to do to protect and like make that more powerful. And so focusing on that instead of focusing on the technical aspects of the wastewater system, because that's, overwhelming and kind of boring to most people. And then finally, the last category is building and maintaining public trust. I think having the right information is kind of like one base, like that's like kind of a practical base for all of this work. And then public trust is more of like a touchy-feely foundation for all of this work. So that requires making the meetings welcoming, ensuring transparency, and like physically going door to door and talking to people face to face. Public leaders should be addressing legitimate concerns of all types in all shapes and sizes, having humility, eagerness to listen, and inviting all types of people in. And then a really important one that we heard from a lot of different towns that I thought was really interesting to hear was that a lot of them held community events that weren't about wastewater in an effort to like build this public trust for wastewater. And so those events weren't at all focused on wastewater, but they were still like moving towards this final goal. Is it time for questions? Okay.
What kind of events?
So specifically, we heard from a planner in Waitsfield. He had a lot of like very specific concrete ideas, so I draw from him a lot, of just like having community parties and like making the municipality a very like present at like big parties or like pizza events or barbecues or like block parties, stuff like that, where it's like fun and people are coming with their kids and they're hanging out and they're talking to their neighbors, and they're not just talking to their neighbors, they're also talking to their municipal leaders. And like when you're getting to know your municipal leaders on a human level, it's a lot easier to trust them with millions and millions of dollars.
So who sponsored those? Was it when you say the community leaders, were it the town officials or if you could translate the context for us compared to like, would it be the staff of Jericho, the select board, or our planning commission? Are you able to just give us a grounding like when you say?
That's a really good question. I think the way that I perceived it when we were hearing from these people was that it was like kind of just the town, But I also spoke to another select board member from a different town who said that like one of her goals as a select board chair was to throw parties, like as the select board.
Okay.
And so I think it would probably, there would have to be probably more thinking in Jericho about what would work best
Yeah.
here and like from whom that outreach would be the best like received.
Yeah, and I think
Thank
in
you.
Waitsfield, there, the lead person kind of coordinating everything was with the Mad River Valley Planning District.
Mhm.
And he took the lead on planning those types of events.
But I'm not sure if like the party, like he took the lead, but I think it's a good question of like, was it the town of Waitsfield that was like, welcome to our party? Or was it like the select board? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think what we found was that the same types of things were happening in the communities.
Mhm.
It's not like
Yeah.
it had to happen in a certain way, but
Right.
they were happening, and someone was helping coordinate it all to make sure that it happened. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you have an outside coordinator making sure that there's a tea party one week and we show up at the farmer's market the next, but the message continues to be the same in every one of these, or is there, do they say nuances between each messaging and each event?
I think the important part is like for these non-wastewater community events is that there isn't necessarily messaging besides like, we're here, we're your public leaders. We want to be a part of this community. We want to be present in the community. We want you to like hang out. We want to create a space where people can hang out with their neighbors and share food and have fun. And then like the actual discussions about wastewater are like an entirely separate thing. And so then like, yeah, discussions about wastewater, there's gonna be slightly different messaging happening at different points in the process and in different venues. But like, kind of this like fun community event thing, it's like, I would say the messaging is all the same, which is all like, we love our neighbors and we wanna have fun together.
How big were these events? Is this like 20 people, 50 people, 5 people?
I wish I could tell you like those specific numbers. I know like the words that I was hearing were like parties and like barbecue and block party and so I'm not sure. I know.
I saw, I think, a picture someone shared with us had like
Yeah.
maybe 30 to 50 people. But to your point about the messaging regarding the wastewater, although that wasn't happening at these types of events, where that was the point of the meeting, there was consistent messaging that was being coordinated. Yeah.
So a suggestion then might be for us as planning commission members, for example, to organize a block party in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Although I have to say,
Yeah.
there's the Tuesday night pizza thing going on right now, which has been an awesome.
I'm wondering if we can tap into things
Right.
that are already happening, like, and then build on that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like I'm hearing, sure, there's organized events, but what I'm hearing is that town leadership is showing up to these events and talking to people. It's not necessarily about throwing a party. It's about us and maybe more importantly, whoever the primary contact is, whoever's on the wastewater task force and the select board, making sure that they are attending these
Yeah.
kinds of events
And
and talking to people.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think there's two other things to like consider when it comes to these like kind of fun community events. Number one is that like having this kind of public trust unlocks not just wastewater in your community, like it unlocks a lot of other abilities to do other types of things when you have that really strong foundation of trust. And then number two, something else that I kind of learned that we learned in our research, especially of other communities, is that there can be kind of like rifts between residents. Like there's the rift between leadership and residents, and then there's also like a rift that can form between residents. And so having these community events can also help to address that, right? Like it's harder to say mean things about your neighbor on Facebook or next door when you just had pizza with them last night.
Or when they're sitting so close to you. Yeah.
Oh, That you just identified for me what it is about this that I hate so much.
Yeah.
That I don't have that extra table barrier.
Right.
Exactly what it is.
There's no buffer.
Did anyone go to that food truck event that was at the,
Oh, the blueberries?
no, this was a couple years ago in Jericho Center. the food trucks were stationed outside the community
No,
center.
But Underhill does that
Yeah.
regularly and it's
Right.
awesome.
That might be something
Yeah.
to maybe try.
Yeah.
There's also the farmer's market.
Right, I mean, this would be like one of those additional
Yeah.
things, but that happened, I wanna say probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Any other questions? I'd love to, if you guys have other questions about like the other categories, I'd love to.
Did you run into a situation where the select board was divided and they still went through and got wastewater?
There was, I don't think there was sorry, let me start over. I didn't hear necessarily stories about the select board being divided. But there definitely were scenarios where the select board like was unwilling to make a stance at all. Right? I think that happened specifically in Westford where maybe privately or like in their campaigns, select board members said, yeah, I support this. And then when the project got really contentious, they were like, we're just gonna let the voters decide, and they like completely stepped back from the process. And then that kind of ended in obviously a failure in Westford. I honestly haven't really heard from other towns about like a divided select board, which to my mind probably means that select boards were like relatively unified, like if it didn't come up at all. But I do think that's a good question. Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight one of the things that you said, because it's just a really nice mind shift for me of, one of the how to protect things we love about Jericho as one of the kind of messaging thrusts or ways to come at this question that I hadn't considered before. Have a comment other than just like that. I haven't thought about it from that point of view. And I think, yeah, I want to noodle on that for a bit because I think that is a really persuasive and powerful frame to come at it with.
Yeah, totally. And I think like in every single town that we talked to, the opposition was coming from a place of like, we don't want our community to change. And the successful projects were able to say, okay, well, this project isn't gonna isn't gonna result in the character of our community changing. It might result in like some of the built environment of our community changing, but if anything, it's gonna allow our community to become even more vibrant in these ways that we love. And I think it's also important to note, like in the community interviews that my colleague Cam did, he talked to a lot of different people who had a lot of different perspectives on wastewater, but most people agreed on the things that they love about Jericho. And I think that's like a really good place to start with, right?
I love what you said about it's not changing the character, it's changing the built environment, because I do hear this is gonna change the character of Jericho. With more people, more concentration in one area, but I think changing that to the built environment is a more winning argument for us to do.
I see Chuck Lacey is here, and one of the things I've heard him say over and over again is that Jericho is the people that live here, and that's what's important. That's what's the character of the community.
And I heard from Chuck too, like, I think he really emphasized that something great about Jericho is that people get involved here and they're like everyone has served on like some board or commission or volunteered to help with the Little League team. And I think that's like a very strong place to start from, right? If you have a community of people who really want to get involved with their town, rather than people who are happy to just kind of sleep here and then go to work and yeah.
Do you, if I could ask you something, and you referenced Cam, and I know like he had not finished his work the last time the two of you came.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any insight, or is there a way that we're gonna get the information from him? And I don't wanna put you on the spot for his work, but.
No, totally. I want to preface that I am not as familiar with Cam's work as he is.
Yeah.
So I would definitely, I'm gonna kind of tread carefully here and maybe
Okay.
be like a little less like certain than I would be with my own. He has finished up his work, and His work had definitely informed all of these strategy recommendations. We came up with them together. We were all upstairs, the three of us, like writing on sticky notes and moving things around, trying to come up with these categories. Do you have any specific questions about like the findings of his work?
No, I just knew that there was sort of multiple parts that were coming together, so I wanted to make sure that we were getting the full thing, so thank you.
No, totally, yeah. I think he found some interesting things, but also like nothing that really surprised us, I think.
Yeah.
And like, what?
Well, I was gonna say one thing, I just remember him talking about, and it's a disconnect. Because people that I think were hesitant or tentative about supporting wastewater, at the same time would talk about the issues with having more affordable housing and just not making the
Mhm.
connection between how critical it is to solving the things that they care about.
That's really important. Again, just in terms of the, like, what are our core, understanding that we are hearing people about their concerns and then how to fit them together. I think that's really good.
And that's, I think, where the trust thing comes in. So that they don't feel like you're just giving them a talking point, but they trust you and hear what you're saying.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah.
This is what we heard, and
Yeah.
always good to go back with this is what we heard.
And I think it's important too to think about like community surveys and soliciting feedback as a type of outreach, right? Like, even if people aren't super 100% on board with your project, you're still asking them what they think, and that's gonna like allow them to trust you more and be like, okay, these people are like taking this seriously. They're asking everyone what they think. They care about what I think. And so, soliciting feedback is just as important and just as much like a type of outreach as like mailing out a postcard before the bond vote.
Yeah, with one caveat. We've heard, particularly in Jericho related to wastewater, like you keep asking and we're not seeing you do anything. So there is a point of diminishing returns in terms of the asking being sufficient. If the ask is a different ask and says, this is what we heard, we're looking for further clarification, or this is what we heard and what we did, and here's now the second place for putting in information so that we can go the next step, then it's okay. But I mean, given where we are at, we ran into it then when we were doing the town plan update. Like, it was really important to not do, in addition to saying, give us feedbacks, here's what we heard and here's what we're gonna do.
Totally, yeah.
Right? Or it becomes like a false, it feels false, right?
Did we talk about, sort of collating the responses and without necessarily putting names to them, but putting the responses that people gave up on our website? Just to, cause I think we had a conversation about like, showing that we hear you, right? And making an effort to really make that happen.
Yeah.
So.
And I think representing the different viewpoints
Right.
would be
Everything
really,
here's what we
right,
heard.
here's what we heard, all the different, just because that transparency, I think
Right.
is so important.
Right, so maybe we could.
Yeah.
work on that.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much, because I think the work that, it just tees us up so nicely.
I know we talked about including the survey results like as an appendix in the report, and I'm not sure if we were comfortable doing that, but the report, there's a whole section in the community profile where Cam is like referring to the direct results. So
Okay.
it's not like spelled out each one, but it's being used and it's part of the content of the report.
That
And
sounds really helpful.
he like quotes specific comments and stuff too.
Awesome.
I would definitely want to be careful in that we are not quoting some vehemently negative quotes in there, because that's going to become a rallying point for those who don't want this.
I mean, I guess, but I think it's important to hear people's concerns from both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but we don't need to go to the extremes of it.
Chuck, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I still don't believe the select board is serious about this. They made no effort to supervise the engineer. They have not announced that they intend to do this project. They reserved no money in ARPA. They established a committee to work on this in April that hasn't met yet. I think we're all fools to think they're serious about this until they say we're going to do it. When they're building the town garage, they said we have to do this. We're doing it. And then they moved forthrightly, demonstrating their ability to get something done, and figured out how to do it. And I think Finley's work has shown, until the select board says, we're going to do this, I think we're all just wasting our time. The select board, I think we need to encourage the select board to say, we're doing it, and here's why. And we have, by virtue of our zoning, reserving 86% of Jericho for people with money and confining people with low and middle incomes in the village centers, we have long ago decided that this is necessary. And the select board needs to say, we're gonna do it. And I think that Finley's work, excellent work, has shown that it's that kind of commitment from the leadership of the town that's necessary. They need to stick their necks out and just say, we're doing it.
Thank you. Just as a point of clarification for the people watching the recording afterwards, the wastewater task force is actually meeting tomorrow evening for the first meeting. So that is happening. It's happening tomorrow at 7. That would be August 6th.
3.5 months after it was formed.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm just saying for the record, it is happening. We're not going to debate anything else.
You can see me there tomorrow too, in case you want more of me.
Excellent.
Well, now that you say that, I'll be there.
You'll be there.
Yes.
Okay,
So.
yeah, because this is the week of wastewater roadshow, so. Yeah. So Finley's here tonight, Cam and I guess Sam Finley are gonna be here tomorrow night, giving a fuller presentation to the wastewater task force, only fuller because it'll include information that was presented here on a previous meeting. And then presenting this also to the select board at their meeting Thursday.
Oh, my goodness.
So.
I know, you should see my Google Calendar.
Is
This is
the
great.
Wednesday meeting going to be recorded and available?
I believe yes. I believe it is, yeah. The task force is not, it's a task force, so it doesn't have the same public meeting requirements, but we're gonna fulfill them as if it is.
Be a good idea for
Yeah.
this.
It's Zoom and in person here. All right, are we?
Are there any other questions?
Is there anything you want to test out with us before you go to those other 2 meetings?
I think that was it pretty much. My
Okay.
little spiel right there, that was my test.
All right.
I hope I did okay.
You did beautifully.
So for our next steps, we just talked about this, we're presenting to the wastewater task force and the select board our findings. And then finalizing the report. We're gonna be all done next week, which is really scary and crazy. I feel like it was like 2 weeks ago that I first talked to you guys. I think things are in a really good spot. I think all of us are really excited. Like, I think we've something very coherent and consistent has come together, which is really awesome to see. You don't always get that. And so, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I wanna thank Kim and Finley. They did an awesome job this summer. They jumped right in. They didn't waste any time getting meetings scheduled with people, contacting folks in other towns to pull the information together. The final report has been sort of sent out, so we're vetting it through like CCRPC and just some other people to take a look at it to get some feedback on where we might need clarity and how to tighten it up a little bit. But they just did a really awesome job. I'm really proud of the work that they did. So thank you, Finley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I've had a great summer and it's been great, like getting to know Jericho more and kind of getting to understand what's going on here more. And now, like every time I was driving through, my partner and I were in like the Champlain Islands yesterday on over my weekend, and I was like driving through these towns, and I was like, oh, that's a brewery. I wonder if they have wastewater.
You're gonna see it everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's totally changed the way I like look at these towns and my community, and I've had a really great experience here.
Is
So
there
thank you guys so
anything
much for
you
having
want to share with the planning commission about what are some of the big things that you learned sort of working in a small town?
I feel like I learned, well, number one is that like everyone knows everyone, and like anyone who you interview or talk to will reference like 4 other people you already talked to, and then like 3 others who are on your agenda. And then like even when you're talking to like some other leader in some other town, like 2 hours away, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I went to high school with like with Linda in your office. And I was like, that's crazy. Like just all of these connections I feel like are very unique and special. I think also like something really great is that there's so many people who are so passionate about Jericho and who, you know, you guys don't have to be here, like you're choosing to be here. And I think there's so many people in Jericho like that. And whether or not they all agree with each other about the best way to make Jericho great, like I said before, like there's this really great consensus of like a Jericho-ness that's like really powerful and that really draws people to this place. I really enjoyed my drives in on the morning. It's really beautiful here. I think I felt very welcomed like in the office, and just like when planning commission people and select board members come through, like they're all so welcoming and kind. And I felt like people are really grateful that I'm here, which is like a good feeling to have. I think especially as like an undergraduate, I think that's very unique.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We are grateful.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you guys too.
Hopefully we'll have some housing if you ever want to move here.
Right. Am I all good?
You're all good.
Okay, I hate to rush out of here, but I've got a big
Oh.
beach.
Go to the beach.
Thank you guys so much for having me, and enjoy your discussion about enabling housing.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving on. All right. So next on the agenda is it's our first discussion on enabling housing, where I think we're really going to start to get into some details. Peter. So here's our work plan from now to December, and we're at the beginning. So tonight I'm going to share with you findings from interviews with developers and their thoughts on zoning and conservation regulations and how they help or hold back housing development. I got suggestions from David White, CCRPC, and other prominent housing advocates on who to talk to, and I got lots of suggestions. So thank you, SJ, Susan, and Chuck Lacey all helped me get connected to some really good people to talk to. I've reached out to about 8 to 10. I got about 4 responses back. So what you're seeing tonight, they're from three people that I talked to. One is a local developer, one is a land use planning consultant, and one is a affordable housing advocate. They have all worked in Jericho at some point. I still would like to talk to a large scale housing developer and conservationist. I'm still working on that. And when I get I'll follow up with the planning commission once I kind of pull that information together too. So tonight I've organized the information gathered from in the interviews under 5 general questions. So what zoning is important to encourage housing in general? What zoning creates the most challenges to building housing? What zoning makes it easier to build affordable housing or more affordable housing? What is the most effective way to protect natural resources in Jericho? And what is, if there was a market for cottage courts in Jericho? That was a very specific question, but I got some good information I wanted to share. So I'll go over what, and then I'm going to go over what I flagged as some highlights before getting into our discussion. So any question about what we're doing tonight or what this part is? Okay. Okay, so for the first question, which was what zoning incentives are most important to encourage housing? There was a general consensus from everyone that I talked to, greater density or smaller minimum lots. The smaller minimum lots that was key because in Jericho that basically translates the density because that's how we use lots to determine maximum density. Also flexibility in regulations to solve unanticipated issues that come up. Or like flexibility in where to locate septic fields. Like if it can be in a community open space, and that can count toward open space. Allowing more compact and clustered development was mentioned by the local developer and the consultant as something that would be helpful. And the affordable housing developer specifically mentioned reducing impact fees and expedited review processes. I don't know how much we would address impact fees, but like the expedited review process is something that we could look at through
Can
zoning.
I ask you a quick question before you move on?
Yeah.
I know you asked these questions kind of in a broad hypothetical sense, is that right? Do you know if any of these people that you interviewed actually looked at our newest version of our regulations and had any thoughts on how that translates to their like review?
They didn't, well, I didn't ask that question, but the majority of the regulations that are going through for approval now are concentrated in the villages. And what the questions I was asking was more specifically in the areas outside the villages. Because that's where we want to be looking at clustering development, having open space, and we're doing it in tandem with the forest overlay.
So then maybe at some point in the future, we should just clear that in your title here, because.
Got it, yes. Yes, but some of the information I'm gonna get into.
All right, we don't have to get.
Is speaks to the importance of having village centers where we've got infrastructure, but I'll get to that.
I just have a quick question. Can you clarify the difference between smaller minimum lot sizes and more compact development?
Yes, so density is determined based on the number of lots that you have. You get 1 unit per lot. So if you have smaller lots, you get more density.
Yeah.
If you have clustered development, you can have clustered development that's on even smaller lots than that, if it's set up right, right? So say you have 100 acres and you have whatever the minimum, so right now it's like 10 acres in the rural ag. So maybe that the 10 acres stays, but maybe there's a bonus density for certain things, and then you have a smaller lot size that you can use for that, and then associated with that, there would be clustering associated with that. So the smaller minimum lot size is directly tied to the maximum density you could get on a property, and clustering development is more about how it relates to the land itself. It's more of a design issue.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on this before I go to the next one?
Allowing septic in required open space. Is that something that's currently prohibited?
Well, I just realized as I was talking about that, I don't know the answer to that, but it is feedback that I got. So it was something that I want to look in and figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either.
So yeah, so it's potentially the same or different between what the local building developer said and the affordable housing, because it's framed a little differently. I know you have it on the screen, but is the theme giving folks more options?
That's what I took away from it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what
because I'm framing it as it was stated to me.
Yeah. Okay, but it is that.
They seem to, they overlap and it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
It's the same thing. Give us more options.
At this point, open space can be forested or grassed. If you're
Yeah.
gonna put septic in there, it has to be grassed.
Yeah.
So if you have a restriction on how much trees you can cut down in an area, which would be necessary for a septic field, and to meet your open space requirements, there's a conflict there.
Thank you. That's really helpful to understand.
All right. So the next one, was more in terms of what zoning requirements are most prohibitive in creating housing. So in this one, there was also some common themes that came up, but also more variations. So, more than one of the people I talked to mentioned, again, large lot sizes. Another was, giving the DRB too much discretion in their review that could lead to subjectivity in making decisions. And then a third was natural resource protections that went beyond the state requires or removes density. An example that the affordable housing developer told me was that they've recently been doing a project in Heinsberg. Heinsberg has adopted some wetland regulations that go above and beyond what the state requires, and it is really slowing down their review process. Other comments were very specific to regulatory requirements. So one was like Jericho driveway standards and specifications and the number of units that are allowed off of each driveway. Another was open space requirements. Another one was excessive parking requirements that I don't think we have, but that would be something to look at. Requiring too much affordable housing, that would be in jurisdictions that have an inclusionary zoning requirement. And another one was open space, the requirements, but more on that later because I got inconsistent information on another question. The affordable housing developer mentioned some things that the other two didn't, and one was a limit on the number of units in a multi-unit building, requiring commercial uses, and another was expensive building features, and the expensive building features related, in her example, directly back to the limit of units, number of units. So I think this was in Shelburne. They have a cap on 24 units in a multi-unit building. Well, they had a project where they were doing 48 units. They had to build 2 buildings, which meant that they had to have like 2 elevators, 2 of all the common stuff that drove up costs.
Aren't there ADA requirements that if you're going to have affordable housing with multi-stories, that you have to have an elevator for that?
You do, but
But if you do it in 2 buildings, then you're
Right.
gonna have 2 elevators.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you have to do it in one, elevators are very expensive
Sure.
and maintenance.
So you only wanna do it once.
Yeah. Any questions on this?
On the infrastructure costs in the local developer, how much of that was dictated by where they were versus being off, say, off of Moore Road as opposed to being off of 15 or something like that, where you are going to be building further back?
I think, well, it depends on where you are, right? Because we do have some water service in those outlying areas, but not a lot. The example that I really remember him talking about was stormwater requirements that were coming from the state. So they weren't necessarily in our zoning. But another was like access road requirements, like the width that we require. In some cases, we're requiring more than the fire department's minimum. So I think there would be some places to where we might be able to tighten up some requirements that would make it easier.
Okay.
I'm gonna circle back to your question on another one, because the affordable housing person talked a lot about the challenges of just building affordable housing in more rural areas, but I'll get to that. Any other questions?
I just have a dumb question. Is an access road a driveway by another name, or are they 2 separate things?
I am considering it as either a driveway or a roadway, whatever a vehicle is driving on to access the property, whether it's a driveway or a road. So a driveway is it's either 3 or 4 units. And if it's more than that, then it has to be it has to meet different standards, so.
Okay, I see.
It might also depend on how many units you're building. If you're all in one straight line, that's very different than if you are branching off all the way through.
Or if you've got multiple access points coming in from different places, if you've got clusters, but I haven't really seen that in Jericho, so.
There was something that was going up on, was it Governor Peck? I thought there was a development they were thinking about there just past Tarbox. It was gonna have 16 units off of one road.
Right, so that would be an access road, but then for the purpose of what's here, like a driveway that's just access to 4 units I'm
Got it.
thinking is still an access road.
We just recently updated our zoning to allow that.
In,
Or is it just in the commercial districts in the Riverside?
I'll have to check on that. I don't know if it's townwide or if it was just in the village districts. I can't remember. Anything else? I'll move on to the next one. So this one was the zoning regulations that specifically make it easier to build affordable housing. The local developer didn't have a lot of extensive experience with this, so there weren't a lot of comments from that person. The land use consultant and the affordable housing developer had lots of feedback, like requiring affordable units, so like an inclusionary zoning policy, including density bonuses for affordable housing to offset loss of market rate units, clearly defining targets levels of affordability. So in Chittenden County, 80% AMI is considered affordable. You understand AMI, so it's the area median income for Chittenden County. And I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but 80% AMI is typically like teachers and firefighters and policemen, or your staff working in town hall. It's that level. Also allowing mixed use buildings, which was somewhat inconsistent with some earlier feedback, which was requiring commercial use was a problem. And then having a clearly defined role of the DRB. So that's, I think, is getting into like the subjectivity issue, making sure that the DRB isn't looking at home ownership or income requirements. That's not part of their review. It should not be part of their review. The affordable housing advocate also shared several things that I thought was really interesting. She was saying form-based codes made it easier to build affordable housing because they could get through the design process more quickly. The person gave an example of going through a design review in Shelburne in a matter of a few months, as opposed to 18 months and taking in Heinsberg. And she attributed, one of the things she attributed to that was the form-based code that made it easier. She also said that affordable housing is just not affordable housing, and again, we'll need to define what that is, but she was saying that is without access to municipal water and sewer, it's really hard to do and really unlikely to happen. Her organization, they do not build individual septic for properties because it's just too expensive, and for long-term maintenance. They had not tried community septic, or if they did, it was a long time ago, and it was something that they would really have to look at and consider if they were going to build something affordable in a more rural environment. So I think that is what I was thinking about, and sort of getting back to
This developer is
your
for
question.
like subsidized, like this is affordable in the affordable sense of the word here. Meaning like folks that are living or purchasing qualify for vouchers and are potentially.
Yes, so
using them
like a
in-
lot of their funding comes from the low income housing tax credit program.
Okay, that makes.
So I think there's a difference between like affordable and how I've been trying to word it and being consistent with my wording is housing that is more affordable.
Mhm.
And that's more like in the $350,000 to $400,000 range for a home or a unit, yeah. That person also stated that at least in the model for that organization, they really need a minimum of 30 units for a building to pencil out if it has some affordability included in it. Any questions on this?
For the affordable housing unit developer, were they looking at a development that was just affordable housing, or were they looking at a mixed housing development unit when they talked about this? And the reason I'm asking is in most cases, if a developer has to set aside 2 or 3 houses that are going to be at lower price points, it's subsidized by increasing the cost of the other housing that they put up, increasing the average cost of housing across the town. So I don't know if that's necessarily a desirable outcome to make housing more expensive rather than less expensive.
State the beginning of the question again, because I was looking for the answer. You were, okay,
Was this person on the affordable housing, were they only doing affordable housing, or were they building mixed income
Got it.
housing?
my perception was that it was mixed, but I would need to verify that. That organization, does, oh, I think they own and maintain and rent some. They also do sales, like with a shared equity formula, where the covenants like that. So they have different types of models that they use.
Do they have market rate housing as well?
I do not know the answer to that.
Can you, say a little more about the land use planning consultant, specify unit size for affordable units? What do you mean by that?
I think this was about making sure there's some specificity in the regulations so that if you are having say there's a density bonus for affordable units, that they're not building 900 square foot micro units, that they're a certain size that would be reasonable. It also sets the expectation clearly in the regulation, so that if it is going through some sort of a review process, if it's not by right, and if it is, there's a review process involved, the standards are clear for whoever's doing that review, whether it's the zoning administrator or a DOD.
So would that necessarily prohibit, say, a 700 square foot studio apartment as something for affordable?
I think it would depend on how it was worded. So there could be minimum size requirements. I know in the municipality I came from, it was worded that they needed to be the same size as the other units in the complex. So it was based on context, not a random number or a specific number. Those regulations also require that the units be evenly distributed around the building or the complex so that they're not all in the basement.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
And how did the developer change their market rate units in a scenario like that?
What do you mean? How did they change them?
Well, if they're leasing out or selling out the affordable units on various floors at a significantly lower price than the market rates,
I see. But
how are they making up that money? Are they increasing the market rates to offset that so they get their profits, or are they?
I understand what you're asking. I think that gets back to a previous comment. Oh no, actually that's right here. The bonus density for incorporating more affordable units is to offset losses by not having market rates. So you may be doing more affordable
More
unit.
market rate to cover the affordable ones.
No, just more units. You get a bonus density for having affordable units, so that you can build more units, which can allow them to have a profit, but still not drive up the cost of the market rate units.
So the profit is the same across the board, whether they were doing, well, I don't know. No, that's, I don't want to make it more confusing. Did Chris Brown's answer answer your question?
Yeah.
Great, then I'm not gonna say anymore. Any other questions on this? No, okay. The next question was, what regulations are effective for protecting natural resources? So I didn't have anything specific from the local builder. Both the land use consultant and affordable housing developer talked about making sure regulations do not exceed state requirements. Interestingly, the land use consultant specifically called out having clearly defined open space requirements is very important. I found that interesting because one of the previous comments on one of the obstacles to building housing was having these open space requirements that we've got. This consultant has also used Jericho's natural resources overlay and said it was really helpful in getting their clients to do the right thing and getting a better design outcome. So it was really
great to hear.
Great to hear that feedback. And I have been in that position before where you have the regulations that are intended to get a design outcome, and you have applicants that are coming in that don't want to follow the regulations. And I've had experiences where like you force them to comply with the regulations, and at the end of the process, they're like, oh, this is actually a better design. Yeah.
And then you say, I told you so.
Nope, you say that's great to hear. Thank
See,
you.
that's why I can have your job.
Subtext of that, I told you so.
Yeah, but I'm not Southern like he is.
Mid-Atlantic, but that's okay. Any other questions on this? I do want to reach out to a very specific, like a conservation planner, and get some feedback from someone else, which haven't been able to do yet. So
I have to, I was still thinking about, is there anything else? I am looking at the two different responses from the affordable housing developer, and they seem to contradict one another, or I'm just not understanding something.
got it. No, thank you. So if the state has regulations for wetlands, rely on the state's regulations for wetlands.
And if they don't have regulations for something,
They don't have regulations for night sky,
Mhm.
but we cared about that. Like that would be an area to have regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Those comments were not, I'm guessing were not made because Jericho has those conflicts or redundancies, but just in general, avoid doing that.
Correct. So if one of the things we're going to be looking at is expanding our adding to the natural resource overlay, the like forest cover, understanding what the state is going to be regulating and what they're not going to be regulating, and being aware of that as we're pulling together whatever it is we're going to pull together.
I would. Well, I don't know, maybe it's late in the game. I would. Be interested in some smaller scale housing developers that have done either tiny houses or mixed income developments that aren't 30 units of subsidized housing, but are actually the kind of
Affordable and mixed income that we're expecting.
And I think specifically, I'm thinking about, I'm picturing a couple of little developments in some rural areas that I've seen. And it's like, oh, I wonder who did that? How did they do that? Why did they choose to do that? What was difficult about that? I think that this, the particular group and person that you talk to here is certainly useful, but I also think if it is who I think it is, I don't think that they're coming back to Jericho, or at least anytime soon. Because they want to at minimum do 30 units, and that's just not the kind of housing that we're looking for, affordable housing.
I love that idea. SJ, finding the places and talking to the people who specifically have developed those places, if it's different than the folks that Chris was able to access.
I mean, I think that they are the right, not to say that this person wasn't the right person
In
to talk to,
addition.
in addition.
Let's follow up after the meeting and make,
Yeah.
because some of them I may have followed, I may have reached out to and I've gotten a response. And if
We can share names.
we can figure out how to get that information.
That would be
Yeah.
great.
We used to have developers in town who developed 20, 30 unit subdivisions. I don't recall much, anything being done outside of Hendy Lane in quite a while, Jericho. And Hendy Lane is 9 units, so it didn't fit under the 10-unit subdivision piece. But it would be good to find those people. It's like, okay, you bought my neighborhood, you got 3 or 4 singles, ranch houses that are there that are much lower in price than everybody else, and that's what the builder put in. But I don't know who's doing any of that thing.
Well, I mean, I can, I've been a creeper and driving around and seeing some little developments with some tiny houses or, some of the drives that I've gone on with Chuck where we've been like, oh, wait a minute. And, stopped on the dirt road, backed up, gotten out of the car, taken some pictures of, some developments of maybe less than, probably actually because of less than 10 homes, some of which are really small. Some of them are clearly, super high energy efficient. And I would just love to know who, how, why, what were the roadblocks? What's your septic? Like, yeah, Chuck would knock on their doors. I wouldn't, but
You're on planning, yeah, you can knock on.
I don't like talking to people, but those are, I imagine for especially the conversations where we're looking at housing that is more affordable, that is also outside of our village centers. Those are the kinds of builders that I want to talk to. What did you do? Why did you do it? How did you do it?
How long ago did you do it?
How long ago did
Yeah,
you do it?
and if it's happening, I mean, I don't know if it's happening in rural areas.
Well, it is. We have photos, darn it.
Well,
But did it happen 5 years ago? Did it
Is it
happen
still
10 years
happening?
ago?
Did it have subsidies from the state or?
Yeah,
All those
Asking.
contextual issues.
Yeah,
are
what
really
did the
come
units
from.
actually cost?
exactly. Yeah, like
Like,
I have no idea.
Affordable just because they're small, doesn't
But I-
necessarily mean.
But I think that will add to the affordable housing developer information that we're.
Go write that down, because one part of the discussion is what other information do we want? And I'm not writing down right now, so I wanna capture that, so we can follow up on some, I can follow up with some of that stuff. Great. The last question, and this one was more specific, it was about cottage courts, and the feedback was varied. They all agreed there was a market for it, but they also thought that there is less than demand than what people might think. There was concern that the concept wouldn't really work well in Vermont. Like a common open space competes conceptually, I think, with a town green, or created a type of open space that isn't really what people want here. The type of open space that people want, and this is subjective, but is like rivers and mountains and access to natural resources, and not a small common green space, which I think is more attractive if you're in Burlington or South Burlington or a dense built up area.
Yeah.
Not so much in Jericho.
I-
Go ahead.
I guess I would just tend to disagree with that statement. I don't see why it would compete with the town green. And if you had a cluster of 10 houses and a common shared space, and you had the right mix of people, it could be an incredible, like kids could be playing in that common space all day long. They could be having, community meals. They could be
Without having to
garden.
get in
They
your
could,
car.
without having to get in your car. Like
Yeah.
I don't see how it competes with the village green, and I don't see why it wouldn't be desirable.
I agree, and this is so feedback that I got. I thought it's a different perspective.
Yep.
I thought, if you just sort of take that thread a little further, I thought, like, looking at cluster development, where the model that was oriented around natural features instead of a common green space, might be something more in keeping with what the market wants in Vermont. I don't know. And then some very specific feedback on the size of small houses around the common green space. The Affordable Housing Advocate recommended a max size up to 1,500 square feet. I had started with 1,200 square feet. She said that 300, that they had done a study that looked at small houses. That 300 feet makes a big difference in the size of rooms if you're trying to get up to 3 bedrooms. Just having, like, people want a space to store snow tires. They just need space. So that she came up with 1,500 square feet on that. Although you can see there's there are caveats. It's like, 1,000 square feet for a 2-bedroom could work, or, so there was flexibility, but I thought that 1,500 square foot was interesting. Any thoughts on this?
I think it's a great theory, but I think at the end of the day, just looking at Jericho property, property maxes on the maps on the tax listing where it is. That's not where people live at this point. And that would be, it's a nice ideal to have Jericho Center where you've got everybody clustered around a town green or the corners or the riverside. That's not where most people in Jericho live, and it'd be great, but I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, well,
People don't live there because it doesn't exist.
But it exists in other places and people are gonna go there. I don't believe people come to Jericho because they wanna live cheap by jowl with their neighbors.
I don't think that's, I would disagree with that sweeping generalization, I guess. But
I think there's a great demand for housing, and I think there is demand for different types of housing that we don't have in Jericho. So just because I think it's sort of a, if you build it, they will come thinking. People might have an association with what Jericho is, which would prompt them to maybe come here to look for housing. But if there's housing that's available that's on the market, there might be other people that would come to look at that because that's the type of housing that they're interested in that we currently don't have.
The closest we have to that is the Starboard development, where you've got a number of condos clustered around a common area and a number of houses clustered around an open space. And I don't believe there's anywhere else in Jericho like that.
And that is an I mean, that turns over every year when I look at, those places don't stay on the housing market for very long. I mean, those are in high demand, high turnover. Those are.
Even the condos, they go
Yeah,
instantly.
and there's people who want to live in Wisdom House, and man, would I love to live in a little cottage court with my girlfriends from college in 20 years from now. And we all come out and sit on our porches and scream at each other across the lawn or not across the lawn. I like the idea of around a natural resource instead of the green. Or, I mean, it does make me think, like, well, what is the real difference between a cottage court and a PUD or any other kind of clustered development? There's a shared open space here, which is part of our PUD requirement. So it really is kind of the size, the compact nature of it.
Well, I think it's the site plan that makes a difference. I mean, a cottage court, they are designed around the buildings frame a space itself. And I think our current PUD model, you're setting off large amounts of area. The houses are over here, and then you have access to all of this open space that's over there. But over here, everyone has their own yard. The cottage court is conceptually using that open space as a framing principle for how the subdivision's laid out.
Yeah. And that's currently not possible in our regs. Did I hear you have some questions about that?
I think the answer is yes, that's not possible unless you are doing a mobile park,
Mobile home park.
a mobile home park. And when we were looking at this last round of regs updates, I wanted to take out because it was mobile home parks and, or whatever the wording was. But it was the only regulation that allowed that type of development, and I didn't want to remove it because you could do manufactured homes or something that could still get that if someone really wanted to do that.
The last thing I'll say on this, and then I'll stop because it is one of my favorite. My favorite cottage court type is in, where did I send it to you? Is it Huntington? I mean, it's kind of a group living situation.
Yes.
But is it Huntington? I mean, we're talking
I can't remember, I looked it
a
up.
town very similar, or is it Bristol? I can't remember.
Yeah, Bristol.
Bristol, right?
Bristol.
Bristol.
I love that, and that is absolutely consistent with Jericho. So I reject that it has to be in the city center.
We're in Bristol.
I'll send you the link to
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
I peek at it every couple of, I love it.
Yeah.
This is cool though, this is interesting.
So, these were my takeaways, and sort of like having looked at this stuff for my career. I mean, getting it, well, it's hard to get affordable housing. Again, what's the definition? Without municipal infrastructure. Lot size and density is critical. Allowing multi-unit buildings is really important. Having specific requires with flexibility, so X amount of open space, but flexible for where it is and where it's located or how it's used. Natural resource protection should be consistent with state as much as possible. As a urban designer, I was really happy to hear that form-based codes was really helpful for affordable housing in terms of simplifying the review process. That the cottage court concept, if we used it here, should be tweaked to work specifically within Jericho. And that if we were looking at something for related to house sizes, that 12 to 1,500 square feet for a small house is probably a good place to be. So those are what jumped out to me. But this is discussion time, so what did you find from these interviews to be most notable? And then is there additional feedback you would like to hear? And I heard some suggestions before, but I hope you can repeat it so I can write them down this time.
I mean, none of it is, it's not surprising, but that minimum lot size. Worth repeating over and over and over.
Well, put that onto a municipal water and sewer.
Yeah. But again, like I just got back from vacation back where I grew up, and so many of the people that I grew up with and the places that I grew up are, you were able to scrap together enough money to get a small piece of rural land, put your trailer out there. Some of them even had an outhouse. My sister-in-law had a composting toilet while they built a tiny house. And, her partner did work for trade. And so he got a small solar panel that he could rig up. And, they've been slowly chipping away at this piece of land that they were able to get. And they now have a lovely home 10 years later. It just, the idea that people have to, in order to live in Jericho and not in a village center, you have to have a lot of money is a lie. The only reason that has to be true is if you have to buy 10 acres. I understand why we want to build around our village centers and why the state wants to invest in that. I absolutely believe in building up our infrastructure, but it is a lie that people of lower income and lower means can't live in our rural areas. And I just think we need to get out of the way.
Is that predicated on being able to purchase less than 10 acres?
I mean, I think a lot of it is. Yeah, I do.
I think if you.
But
Well,
also-
area zoned for 10 acres, that's a big chunk of land.
Also, I think about the folks who, you know, currently live here and want to give some of their land to their children. And so you come into this piece of land, you don't have a lot of money, but you get this chunk of land. Why can't we, you know, create,
But the,
we shouldn't stand in their way, I guess is what I'm saying. And I just want to reject the premise that it's impossible.
I agree that having to buy 10 acres adds a lot to the cost. But I would also say that the example you gave of, is, most people couldn't follow that path.
Of course.
They don't have the skills, the energy, the time, the whatever to do that. And so the minimum lot size will not address construction costs, material costs, labor costs, you know, the wells, the power, all the septic, all those things. It won't address that. So it's part of the story for sure, but it's a complicated story.
Yeah, but I also just think that if we can identify the places where we are unnecessarily standing in the way of someone figuring out a way to make it happen for themselves, then we should be doing that.
Well, yes, I mean, because it's also true that it will be a long time before much of Jericho has municipal sewer.
Right.
We're gonna do it, but we're gonna start in one place and then we're gonna, you know, so.
And just to attack on that one, because we talk about municipal sewer. And it's a wonderful, high density, pre-built area. Like these towns that are appropriate for that. But any new subdivision can have a community septic. Sure. And that is not predicated on anything the town does with municipal sewer. Sure. And most of them do.
Yeah.
Now, we have plenty of cases where you have community water and community septic and the community fails to pay for it. And then we're asked to bail it out, but that's a separate issue.
Sure, yeah.
That's somebody to talk to, Chris. Who's putting in community septics?
Well, I think the one up on Handy Lane has got community septic, and that's a new development going in. The one on Morgan Road, the
Yeah, I
405, that's community septic.
Who does, is Justin doing that? Who does this?
I think the Morgan Road is,
I just wonder, like, okay, yeah, so wastewater is a ways down the road, but community septic?
yeah,
So, is
And that's-
there
that's open
anything
space.
zoning reg that, yeah.
What was that?
Open
open
space.
space where your community septic
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. Do our regs prohibit that? Is there anything zoning wise that stands in the way of?
I
Or
don't
makes
think
it
so, just
harder.
because we have so many of them. We have so many community septic. We know through Chuck's research that there's community septic all over the place.
Yeah.
And that hasn't stopped the development. And if we wanted more density,
Do we incentivize community? If we
If
give
you
you a
want- if
density
you want- if you
bonus and a community septic signing bonus that you.
but the issue with community septic is not that, it's that the community septic is designed for X number of houses with 3-4 bedrooms. And it's really, really difficult to add on to it once you've done that.
Mhm.
So that prevents the accessory dwelling units, that prevents somebody splitting up their house or putting another unit on their lot. And that's where town septic comes into play, because then you can add in more. But community septic, you got everybody else in your neighborhood has to pay for a larger tank, a larger bleach field, more maintenance, so on and so forth.
But if we're trying to cluster development and have if we're trying to cluster development in spaces outside of our village centers and have as limited impact on the natural resources as possible.
That's what we do.
And
Yeah,
actually, that was something that was brought up in the interviews, is that by clustering the development anywhere, if it's out in the rural district, if you have a cluster development, that's less infrastructure costs for paving, utilities.
Right,
And it's easier to put them on community septic.
Right.
And the town isn't taking over ownership of any of those roads.
Correct, it's just less expensive, so it's less costs that get passed on.
Any other, planning commission comments before?
there was just the you wanted to make sure you got the note, Chris, which was what SJ had mentioned before, is talking to the specific developers of the places.
Oh, right.
I'll have to go through my
Right, where they found
Favorable
some
and-
interesting examples and just,
talk with Chuck, because I
Right.
feel like we've identified a couple.
yeah, and just
Yeah.
know that, get the full depth of the story and as you were pointing out, Chris, the context, like what was happening at the time, what made it possible.
And I think I mentioned, it could be that I reached out to them and got a response. It could be that I just didn't reach out to them, because I have a list of about 20, 30 people. So, yeah.
But it is often easier to hear from people who were not successful than those who were successful.
Yeah, and if like if SJ has a connection with some of them, then maybe we can do the interview together and we can just go through the same questions and get the,
Okay.
As we heard from Finley, everyone's connected to everyone, so just because you don't
Yes.
have a connection.
Yeah, it's just because I don't have it yet.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly.
6 degrees of Jericho separation. Chuck has his hand up, so if we're wrapping up our conversation, I'll turn it over to him. Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
Okay,
it.
Chuck, go ahead. Thanks for waiting.
I mean, Eric is absolutely right. There are many community septic systems around Jericho. The idea that housing needs to be concentrated in the village centers for reasons of wastewater is simply not true. I mean, Tillotson Drive, Tyler Place, the new White Oak development, the one on Morgan Road. I mean, there are, there are community wastewater systems with 50, 60, 70 bedrooms on them. So that is simply not an obstacle. I want to second what SJ is saying about the various ways that people can establish themselves if they have a little piece of land. What we're talking about is the essence of rural life. Rural life presents people with the opportunities to use a variety of ways to make a life. That is the freedom of rural life. It's something that Jericho has gone to great lengths to squeeze that opportunity out of people. We have tremendous leaders in Jericho who bought a piece of land 50 years ago, built a little house, expanded the house. I mean, who have been leaders in Jericho for the last, 50 years. That is how they got here. It's sort of one of the virtues of rural life is the variety of ways that people can establish themselves. And we need to give them the freedom to do that. I also encourage you to stop to resist this idea that you need to be designing people's places for them. We just need to give them the right to do it in a way that does not present environmental problems. The prettiest cottage court in Jericho is on Barber Farm Road. It would never meet whatever standards you guys come up with in terms of designing a cottage court. It happened over the course of 100 years, a little bit haphazard. It's cute, it's beautiful, it's fantastic, and people, and people really love it. But it did not require the hands of the town to design it for them. We just need to give people the opportunity to create a space that works for them. On the sizes of the houses, Lafayette Drive, half the houses were built in 956 square feet and the other half were built at 1,000 and something square feet. Sunnyview Drive houses were about 1,000 square feet. Houses can be small and they can be designed to be added on. Thank you.
Okay, no one else out from Zoom land, so we can move on, please.
Great, so just next steps for enable housing. So I'm not going to be at the August 19th planning commission meeting, although I think there's still going to be a meeting, so we'll work on what that agenda is. So just for this, my next steps is to prepare for the September 2nd meeting where we're going to be talking about values and goals to frame more broadly what we're doing before we get into it.
We're gonna do a meeting without your slides.
I didn't say
I was
that.
gonna say.
I didn't say that. You will have slides.
We're used to them now. They're
That's why,
they're part of our fabric.
that's why we're meeting next week.
Oh, yes, okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Okay.
All right. So this is public comment time. I guess we sort of already had public comment unless there's anything else that needs to be said. Chuck seems to have stepped away. Chuck, did you have any other comments in the public comment section, or did we cover what you needed to say?
Nothing more. Thank you for the time already. You already gave me.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, so now we're up to the town planner report.
Great, so just three quick things, so. For the village zoning amendments, so I'm preparing final amendments for the select board's second hearing, so I will be at the select board meeting. This Thursday to give them an update on my conversations with fire department, give them my recommendation. And then hopefully they will be warning for the next hearing, which if all goes as I'm hoping would be September 4th. Which also means I need to update my town planner report. I have here that it would be at it says September 2nd, it would be at this September, it's the September 4th, it would be at the September 2nd meeting. But if I can get it done in time, you may have it at the August 19th meeting to take a look at.
And did the fire department follow through with you with the items we talked about at that meeting?
No,
No.
no, I sent them some draft amendments, they provided some comments, and so. For capital budget, so I believe this is what you're gonna be talking about at the August 19th meeting. I need to work with Susan on that. So the planning commission, based on other discussions that I've been having here in town hall, I think it needs to prioritize the projects that are listed in the town plan. And then we can have a discussion about, what's really part of a capital budget, what would be part of the general budget, which would come through the planning department budget. So helping figure that out. And there's a whole timeline for how the budget process is gonna work, and we'll have more information on that.
So it looks like that's what we're gonna discuss while you're gone. August
Yes.
15th.
Yes, and you will have
Okay,
some guidance
okay,
on the
brilliant.
phone, and the phone you're now comfortable with.
Okay,
And then the last thing, which Sabina already mentioned, is the wastewater task force meeting. So we're having our first meeting tomorrow night, August 6th, 7 o'clock. It will be here or via Zoom. So I'm excited about that. And this is a total aside, but I don't know what you guys think about AI. I have been reluctant to use AI, but they came up with the wastewater task force graphic. I told it what I wanted,
Nice.
and it came up with it. So I am learning to like AI.
I
Why
think
are there three
it's all
intakes
about-
and only two houses?
it's all about the love,
Conceptual.
right?
Does it convey what it needs to convey?
I mean,
Kinda, sort of.
Great,
Good enough?
good enough.
that was
That's
very,
what I
that was very brave of you.
What, to admit?
To share that journey. with us.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was a journey.
Do septic systems have hockey pucks in?
They sure do.
This one does.
It's the holding tank.
Oh.
I mean, it's technical. I don't want to get into this technical stuff. How this septic systems work.
Okay, so that brings us to liaison reports. Does anyone have anything to bring back? Okay, SJ?
I just wanted for town meeting reimagine task force. I think we've settled on dates So September 20th will be the kind of kickoff visioning meeting where that's a Saturday from 10 to 12. It should be kind of a community event, a great event, like the one we discussed with Finley. And that is really to kind of, the select board will be there and to talk about the kinds of things that we want them to be prioritizing and thinking about as they move into budget building. And so I think it's a good place for the planning commission to be a part of and to be thinking about. But anyway, so that's September 20th, like I said, a Saturday from 10 to 12. The budget review meeting will be an evening in January. We think January 20th. That's not as time sensitive. And then March 3rd, obviously, is the typical voting. But I just wanted you to get September 20th on your calendars.
10 to 12.
10 to 12. And I think given we only have one of these under our belts, we're going to change very little. And try to kind of finesse the thing that we have. So we may be looking for some small group facilitators again. I know some folks volunteered for that, and that was really helpful. So I may be coming out with an ask.
Anyone else? Okay. Is there any other business? Okay, no other business. So now we will. I have wrap up and plan for August 19th. Did we already do that?
Sounds like we
Okay.
just.
Yeah.
We kind of just did, right? Okay. Can I move to adjourn? It's 8:39. Let the record show.
Yeah. When Susan's away and Safina's in charge, we'll get stuff done.
Terps, Sabina. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, SJ, do I have a second?
I second.
Chris Brown seconds. All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good evening.